Good afternoon, class. So today is 12th of January, and first of all, happy Youth Day to all of you. Today is the anniversary of Swami Vivekananda, and I hope that you inculcate some of the teachings that Vivekananda have basically presented that will get you through from these hard times or the times that are currently going to be, for some of you people, be very difficult. And again, I will urge you to remember the teachings of Vivekananda, which rise, awake, and stop not till the goal is achieved. So, this is the only philosophy that you have to do. And I hope you remember how Vivekananda have basically provided the dignity to the Indian people and the people who have lost the all form of sense of integrity, dignity in the times when the Britishers were basically telling us that all the laws that we are currently following are unorthodox and should not be followed. And in that background, he provided dignity to a large population of Hindu people. So that's why he's also called as the father of the new Hinduism. So you should remember this. Read something about Vivekananda. Personally, I admire him very much. It will also beneficial for you if you read something about Vivekananda, what he did and what he did not do. So I hope this is clear. Now, coming to the newspaper, the first one is the SC intends to stay farm laws. So, what is the intention here? Why the Supreme Court have come into forefront? Basically, there were negotiations that were currently going on with respect to the farm bills, whether the government will take them back or not. Between the farmers and between the government of India, they have been arguing with each other that the farm bills needed to be taken back. However, the Supreme Court have come in between because Supreme Court has been saying or critically pointing to the government that they are not happy with how the negotiations are currently going on or how the government have basically handled the negotiations. So they have to intervene because the people who are sitting on the border are also the citizen of the country. The children and the elderly that are currently and the women that are currently uh, living on the Singhu border and all the borders in the surrounding areas, they are citizens of India and therefore equivalent care should be provided for them, and the center should take decisions with respect to the with respect to the benefits or with respect to the welfare and the well-being of the people who are sitting at the protest sites. Now the problem is, the question here is not whatever has been written in the article. The problem here is whether the Supreme Court yields so much power that it can stay the mandate of the people, that is the mandate of the parliament. Now again, let us think about polity. There are two questions that are needed to be answered here. The first question is whether the parliament, whichever law they makes, Supreme Court can stay it or not. This is the first question. Second, if the parliament have passed a particular law, does Supreme Court have a authority to basically implement the law that is passed by the parliament? Now, again, remember, we have talked about this in polity. What does Article 21 does? Article 21, for some initial years, it only provided by the procedure established by law. That is, they will not look into the wisdom of the lawmakers. They will only look if there is an abuse or if there is a violation of a fundamental right under Article 21 or any of the fundamental rights that are present in the part 3 of the constitution. Okay, I hope this is clear. So in simple understanding, parliament, the objective of the parliament is to make law. The objective of the Supreme Court is to basically give justice according to what the law has been established. But can Supreme Court directly interfere into the lawmaking process? Now they have said that they will intentionally stop the law. So how a 7-member body can overrule a body of elected India, which constitutes about 543 members in the Lok Sabha and 245 members in the Rajya Sabha. Because the maximum judge the Supreme Court currently is having on a bench in this particular case are 3 persons. So can Supreme Court do it? You should also argue about these all questions. So the questions will again arise then. Can Supreme Court have taken judicial activism in this particular part? What are the limits to the judicial activism? Because if this is the case, then the Supreme Court can always come in and the Supreme Court can always stay whatever the law the government intends to pass. Isn't the responsibility lying with the government for pushing the reforms? The Supreme Court cannot make law. I hope this is clear. They can only issue the advisory. We have seen this in, I think 2 days before, they have issued an advisory with respect to the IFS officers that they should be provided with gun licenses, and CBI should be the government should make provisions so that the CBI should be establishing another department for tracking the wildlife trafficking that is happening from India to another countries. Okay? That is Supreme Court can do. But can Supreme Court directly meddle into the affairs of the lawmaking? Okay? Think about this. These are some of the things that are needed to be thought about. Okay, so we will be giving this answer in the articles that will be upcoming in the near future, because I am very sure the reaches of the court and the reaches of the parliament, or the separation of powers or the balance of powers that we already have covered in the polity section, they all will be debated in upcoming 1 or 2 days. What the Supreme Court can do, what the parliament can do, whether the Supreme Court have interfered into the jurisdiction of the parliament, or whether the parliament is bound by any of the direction that the Supreme Court gives them. Okay, so we will talk about when the articles will come, but this is the basic premise that you should start thinking from today. How Supreme Court can do it. If you have any doubt regarding this particular part, go to the separation of power chapter, or the federal polity, the independent judiciary, or the integrated judiciary that we are currently having in the federal and the unitary features. Read something about judiciary. That will also help you. The next article is related to the center order 11 million doses of the Covishield. Now, government have said that first of all, this will be given to the priority groups. The priority groups involve the 3 crore health workers who are at the forefront. There will be 1 crore people, or 1 crore doctors and all other people, and then there are 2 crore workers who are working in those particular department alongside the healthcare professionals. Now, please understand, the clearance is not has yet been given for the vaccine that is currently administered to the common people, but only the 3rd phase emergency trial approval has been given. So the Covishield cost is approximately 210 per dose. The government is again changing the statement. Firstly, they gave a statement about 406. Afterwards, they gave a statement about 300 something. Now it is going to 210. So don't be amazed if the price of this particular vaccine again subsidized by 4 or 5 rupees tomorrow. So you should remember this. Okay, so I think all the things are there. This is highly cost effective, and no out of turn jabs needed to be provided. He have requested the chief ministers by the video conference that any of the ministers or the politicians should not jump the gun. They should not jump the queue and take the vaccine when their turn comes. So they should stay away from the vaccine. This is the advisory that Mr. Modi have basically asked from the common people, asked from the politicians. I hope this is clear. The next news is related to the Zuko Valley wildlife doused. Now here this is Zuko Valley. The Zuko Valley is located on the Manipur-Nagaland border. Please do this one favor for yourself. See how the northeastern countries are located and where they are located, because you will have to know where these different states are located. Arunachal Pradesh, then comes the Nagaland, then comes the Manipur, then comes the Mizoram. If you go to the eastern side, there will be Tripura. On the southern side, there will be Meghalaya, just north of Tripura. Then there will be Assam, and then there will be to the eastern side West Bengal and the Sikkim. Please see how the different states are located over there. Okay, so for this particular mission, Air Force was also deployed, and the NDRF was also working side by side, and the altitude of this particular place is 2452. If you also have got time, read some 1 or 2 things about whatever the temperature and the condition or the environmental condition that are prevalent in the state of Mizoram and Manipur, and also learn 1 or 2 things about the demography. Mizoram is a particularly Christian dominated community, and Mizoram was in news for all the bad reason. The prevalence of HIV was very high because of the use of drugs that the people were actually taking. So these are some of the things that you should know. Okay, further moving on, the next news is with respect to the safety net. Now, why this is a safety net and what is this? First, please understand, as the COVID has come up, so the major problem with respect to the COVID that have prompted in front of the lawmakers is the dropout school children. Now, how to contain these school children again into the schools? Because I hope you understand, in the poor family, if the earning hands are less, the only option for the persons who are going to the school is basically to provide the more earning hands, so that more the income, so that they will be able to feed themselves. In the backdrop of this, there is a report provided by UNESCO, in which UNESCO have said that there will be approximately 32 crore children who will be out of the school because of COVID. And this prevalence with respect to South Asia, the African region, and the Indian region would be much high as compared to all the region of the world. Why? Because we are a developing country and there are large population who are going to out of the schools now, and they are not going to enroll back into the school uh, because of the time that they have spent out of school. Now, if we talk about Indian education system is basically a top to down approach, and most of the policies are guided by the center, then they are referred to the state, and then the state implements them. To quell the fears of the dropouts, or to solve this particular problem, the government of India have basically also provided for, or some state government have also provided for, a no detention policy, so that all the people would have a certain education and they do not drop out of the school. The one reason for the major dropouts was uh, getting failed in one examination or getting failed in another examination. So what could be done? There should be incentives that are needed to be provided to the students, so that they would come to school. For example, monetary benefits for all the people who have currently dropped out of school and have never enrolled back can be provided. The second issue is with respect to the door-to-door survey. So the children who are in the country, they can be enrolled or can be checked with the effect of door-to-door survey. That can be collected, this can be put into data, and then the government could be said that these are the persons we are targeting, and the certain specific condition could be provided. Now, examinations have already in the Indian education system provided for a irrevocable role, because that decide that whether you will pass the matriculation examination or whether you will pass the senior secondary examination. Now, what the children need? Children basically need two things: the economic issues and the ill health. So if the nutrition and money can be taken care of, the person who will be returning to the schools in the lieu of the incentives would be very high. So this is what suggested to the government, and the government should act on the same way. The next one is the bridging the gulf. Now, this is a critical analysis of how the things are actually surfacing out in the Central Asia. So what is the situation of Central Asia? There is Saudi Arabia, there is Iran. Saudi Arabia and Iran are fighting against each other, but there is another country called as Qatar. So Saudi Arabia and Qatar also have a strained relations, also had strained relation from 2017. From 2017, they have basically put blockade of the airspace, trade, people, and movement of goods from one country to another, because they have put charge on the Qatar government that they have been sponsoring terrorism in another countries which are allied to Saudi Arabia. So what they did, they presented a list of some 7 items, the things that the Qatar have to follow. The one was getting away from the channel that is Al Jazeera, that is sponsored by Qatari government. The second one is closing the base of the Turkish military that is situated in Qatar. And then there is reduce the diplomatic relations with Iran. Now, Saudi Arabia was hoping that as they will put pressure on Qatar, Qatar will bulge. But Qatar did not bulge. They even increased the presence of the Turkish people, that is the people of Turkey or the Turkish base in Qatar. Then they provided for the diplomatic relations, the strengthen of the relations with Iran. So why they wanted Iran? Because Iran was providing them the way for connecting to the world. If Saudi Arabia was blocking them and the countries that are surrounding the Qatar, see the map, see this map on the atlas, you will see Qatar is located just north of Saudi Arabia. So if Saudi Arabia was blocking, the only way for Qatar to send the goods and services or the air flights and all other things by the way of Iran, because Iran is a big country and then they can use the northern sphere. So Iran was also earning because of it. So everything was going smoothly. Now the Mohammed bin Salman have come to his senses and he have realized that always putting a harsh stance does not help you with the enemies. So what he is doing now, he is making Qatar a friend. or basically the idea is to isolate the Iran. Now it is giving two things. We have seen this in the case of history. Please remember, if you have understood clearly what the Battle of Buxar 1764 did and what was the treaty between Marathas and Britishers in 1780, what it did to Mysore. This is the same thing that MBS is right now trying. So he is making friends with Qatar. It is leading to two things. The first thing is that the Qatar, the money that they were paying to Iran will be curtailed off, because when you use a certain country's space, you will have to pay a certain amount. If you are going there for logistics expenses, they are also needed to be borne out. So earlier Iran was getting money from Qatar for letting Qatar use the airspaces that were in the country of Iran. The second issue is with respect to the some negotiations or some soft line. There are some still demands that the Saudi Arabian country has been demanding, but they have opened a diplomatic channel. So they are bringing closer Qatar to themselves. They are linking the economy of Qatar with Saudi Arabia. Once the sorry, once the Qatari government will stay, even if they stay neutral, it will be huge win for Saudi Arabia against the Qatar. So they now want to become the major power in Central Asia by sidelining the Qatar. So they are trying to isolate the Iran, but this would not be possible in the short run. Maybe in the long run, but in the short run, the MBS, that is Mohammed bin Salman policy, may not be successful in the short run, but in the long run, we will have to see how the Saudi strategy will basically turn out, or whether it will give fruits to the Saudi Arabia and becoming the leader of the Muslim world or not. We will have to see. I hope this is clear. So this is all history here. Please understand it in this particular way. It will be very easier for you. The next one is the reframing India's foreign policy. Now, what is the problem here? The issue lies around the idea that what India must do and what are the immediate threat that India is currently facing. Now, as the Biden is coming at the helm of the affairs of the United States of America, so there will be major change in the policies. Now, Europe has basically turned its back on USA. Why they have turned its back on USA? Because the conditions within the Europe are not very good. Why the conditions within the Europe are not very good? Because the Germany is not the powerful Germany that it is used to be. The exit of the Britain from the European Union is basically taking away two of the major economies out of the picture. There is one economy, that is France, and he does not have very good relations with the president of USA also, or specifically Mr. Trump. If President Joe Biden will try to revive the European or the cooperation with the European Union, that is a separate thing. But right now the European Union is of belief that USA is not going to help them. So they will have to look for an alternative for the growth of the economy, because they will also have to take care of their people. If the economy is not strong, then the political stability cannot be ensured. Okay. So why the economy is strong today? Because the officers in the government services are getting well paid. If they are not getting well paid, they will sit on strikes. If they sit on strikes, the government cannot do its work. Okay? That's why everything is running. So if the economy of a country is not strong, there will be political instability, which the European Union or the countries that are in Europe fears. And they realize this particular fact that the USA is getting away from them. USA have always pressuring the European Union that they should be spending more, or the NATO allies, that they should be spending more on whatever the things they want to achieve, or the defense they have put together in acting against Russia. The another issues with respect to economy, they have agreed on a platform called as EU-China Comprehensive Agreement on Investment, in which China have got the money. So China is going to invest in Europe. The objectivity of Mr. Trump or some of the countries all around the world, that China will be ostracized within some upcoming months. I have told you when the COVID, this particular phase started, most of the people or the Indian media was also saying the same thing, that the China will be sidelined by the world community. It can't be, or it will not be. These are the two things that you should remember. It will not be and it can't be. Because China have linked all the supply chains of the world to its manufacturing industry, and the innovation that is currently happening in the electronics market is coming from China most of the times. So these are some of the things that are currently happening. Now, China is also ramping up its facility. So, China is making good relations with the countries all around the world. It is increasing its sea presence. Now, the third aircraft carrier that they have built, the ties with respect to the military coordination and cooperation has also been increasing with multiple countries. They have found new friends in the Asia, among the Asian nations, and also among the region of Western Asia. Turkey is their ally, Iran is there, becoming ally, Pakistan is there, Nepal is there. They are also making inroads into Myanmar. Sri Lanka is also one of their major ally. Now the situation is with respect to the West Asia. What is happening in West Asia? Now West Asia has always been looking for intervention, or always has been looking for some help in the form of defense, security and cooperation from the United States of America. Now, as Trump was present over there, so Saudi Arabia and Israel were assured that they will be basically acting on the behalf of Mr. Trump, and he will threaten Iran as Mr. Trump have usually done. But with the coming of the Joe Biden, who have opened up a channel for a part of negotiation with Iran on getting Iran again back to the nuclear deal that was earlier negotiated in 2016 by President Barack, in 2015 by President Barack Obama. So that have opened up a possibility for Saudi Arabia and other countries to look for an alternative powers who will also cooperate with them. Now China is also cashing on this particular opportunity, in which they are thinking that they could directly interfere into the domestic politics if the virtue and the advice of USA or the help of USA military strategically and with communication is getting depleted in the Central Asia. Then then China could be another country which can help maintain the balance in the Central Asia. Now, these are all the things that are currently happening, but we will have to see how India is in 2021. So, according to the opinion of M.K. Narayanan, India is right now isolated by most of the countries. Why does he say that? He says that with respect to Iran, we have lost the warmth that we earlier enjoyed. With respect to UAE and Saudi Arabia, we are definitely getting closer. But our old allies, for example, Nepal and Bhutan, keeping aside Bhutan, with Nepal, we do not have the same form of understanding which we had at one point of time, in which Nepal was basically able to, or was taking always the side of India, not the side of China. So the situation have changed now. We have also seen this change in the neighboring countries that are situated in India. Now the problem with India is that India is not always a huge investor. India was consulted every time because India provided good counsel, India provided good cooperation in the matters that are critical for the world security, because we have established non-aligned movement. At that particular time, India has been called as the pioneer of the non-aligned movement. In that backdrop, you should understand that the problem is not the money that the India cannot bring to the table. The problem is the countries are not asking for India's counsel and for the cooperation which they earlier have sought always, or which they have sought earlier always. I hope this is clear. Now, what has happened over the years? So the diplomatic relations, or the relations with respect to the diplomats, how they are working, whether their efficiency have decreased, whether they are not able to do the job that they are assigned to, has not depreciated. The problem is with respect to the country's image perceptions, or the perception about India, that what India will do. Most of the people believe that India has now shifted its major policy goal from Russia to the lap of USA. So USA will become a new ally of new ally of India, which will act against China as a bulwark in the East Asian region. Now, please understand, I have always been saying that India and China do not need to fight. If we have to eliminate Pakistan, or have to tackle the threat of the Pakistan, we cannot make another threat in the neighborhood. So we will have to engage diplomatically the Chinese authorities, talk about negotiations, talk about trade, and if we start trading with one another, also take up against the challenge that Mr. Xi is posing. What Mr. Xi is posing? Mr. Xi is basically ramping up the military. He is the strongest man in China. It was believed that his chair will be threatened, but he has become more stronger because he will be the president, and he will be the chairman of the CPC. So that will create a more challenge for India. Now, The Indian challenge in the Ladakh to the Chinese authorities, in which India have always said that they have won, have basically going to increase. This is the opinion of M.K. Narayanan. M.K. Narayanan believe that the threat from China is sooner or later going to increase in the either part of the border that is located on the northern side, whether it will happen in Arunachal Pradesh, whether it will happen in Sikkim, or whether it will happen in Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand, or Jammu and Kashmir. It is sooner or later going to happen, because the aspirations of China is to make India into a regional problem and treat India that it is basically, or to isolate India. Okay? This is what countries do. So we will have to become the Britishers here. We will have to talk with China that you are strong, we agree with you. We will not budge on our position, because we'll also have to give answer to our people at home. So let us find a middle path and perpetual peace for 20 years. We will not interfere into the border dispute or into each other affairs if there are something that is located in another country. Once there is a perpetual peace that can be ensured for 20 years between China and India, we can directly threaten the stability of Pakistan by imposing different type of sanctions. For example, FATF sanctions, the APJ group is there, the UNSC sanction committee is there, the terrorist financing is there, the definition of the terrorism all around the world, because we have just become the permanent member of United Nations Security Council, we can also implement that. So I hope this is clear. Very good written article by Mr. M.K. Narayanan. Please make notes of it. It will be very beneficial for you also. The next one is the dialogue of the democracy, lessons from Rajasthan. Now this is the issue with respect to the MG Narega payment. Multiple time we have talked about this particular issue. So what is MG Narega is for? MG Narega is basically to provide people on demand work. When they will demand, the work will be provided to them for approximately 100 days. And if the government is not able to provide the work within 15 days, the compensation will be provided. This is MG Narega, Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act. Okay, I hope this is clear. The issues that are associated with MG Narega, that too much reliance on the technology, have led to the increase in the exclusion. Okay, this is how you can define. Too much reliance on the technology have led to increase in the exclusion of certain original beneficiaries. Now, the problem with this particular payment rejection is sometimes the Aadhaar is not linked, sometimes the thumbprints are not getting picked up, sometimes the bank account or the mobile numbers are not linked with one another, and even if there is a discrepancy, there is no grievance mechanism that you can have for any short payment or any undue payment that you are currently asking for. Now, these can be occurring because of the software flaws, because of the technicalities, because of the workshop that you are currently having. The government of Rajasthan have basically provided a grievance mechanism. Now, in this grievance mechanism, the farmers can come. There is a organization of NGOs and the worker groups, or the civil worker groups, civil NGOs, or the worker groups who have formed association. They take grievances from the common people. They assess it to the, they give it or they forward it to the higher authorities, who then generally assess the situation, and if there are any issues, they look out for these particular issues, and these particular issues basically provide for the any shortcoming of the payment that is not coming directly into the hand of the people. This is what they have said about. So this is dialogues for the democracy, and in Rajasthan we are seeing that as the people were involved, or as the people has been included with respect to the deliberation process, because democracy is not democracy if you are just voting for once in a 5 year. So deliberative democracy should always be there. You should be able to contribute into what the government is doing, how they are doing it, what they must be doing it. So the consensus-based building or the deliberative democracy needed to be upheld, which the government have not done in the cases of farm laws. Or maybe they have done, but the government or the people were not able to get the message. So I hope this is clear. The next one is a step back in the gender equality. Now this is a criticism with respect to the paying women for the domestic and the care work, in the recognition of the efforts that may not reduce and redistribute their burden. Now what is the issue here? This Sunny Jose is saying. I hope you understand the issue. The party in Tamil Nadu, that is Kamal Hassan's party, called as Makkal Nidhi Mayam, is basically have proposed the idea that all the women who are housewives, they will be provided a monetary compensation for the work that they are doing at home. Now it seems a very good idea, But this Sunny Josh or Mr. Sunny is basically criticizing it. On which premises he is criticizing this particular idea? The first objection Mr. Sunny has to this particular idea is that you are telling that the domestic work is only the responsibility of the woman for which they should get paid. You are not recognizing that the redistribution of the work needed to be done. The second is he gives a philosophy, or the second problem with this particular issue, assuming that all the work is done by the woman and the man has no role in that. Or basically you are formalizing the domestic work that it is only the responsibility of the woman. The society is recognizing in a law that it is only the work of the woman. Now, another counter views can also be there. The women are working as a labor at home, so they should be paid. If they are getting paid, what is the harm in that? Because they are making the labor of the country that is working all around the country. They are working for them, so some form of money, even if goes to the woman, it should be respected. Now, he gives a philosophy. Actually, he does not give a philosophy, but he quotes a philosophy of 3 R's for gender equality. He says, recognition, reduction, and redistributions are the philosophy. Plus, please remember these 3 words. Wherever the gender equality question comes, state in the first line, the recognition, reduction, and redistribution of the work is the key to gender equality. Then you start explaining the economic aspect, the social aspect, the political aspects, and any other aspect that you want to add to the issue of gender equality. So he says the philosophy of Kamal Hassan party basically recognizes a monetary compensation needed to be provided to the woman for all the work that is needed to be done, but it does not provide any strong foundation for the redistribution of the work. It can also be a possibility that we can somehow urge a large number of men who are at home to help the women in the kitchen. Why can't there be some program that should be started by Mr. Modi so that the men should also cook for approximately 2 days within a week? He have started a Swachh Bharat program. He can also started the same program for the equality that is associated to the women. He can also urge that in schools or the problems or at schools that men and women both should learn how to learn the basic skills of gardening, how to learn the basic skill of doing household chores, and what are the methods that you can do, and with the help of the science that can be made more interesting to be implemented at the ground level. So if you can make such school, think about this. The gender equality, the first gender connection that a person has with respect to gender starts from the school. Up till class 4th or 3rd, he does not differentiate between two genders, all are same to him. But after 5th or 6th class, he start having a type of a classification with respect to the gender. The girls are differentiated from the man in different parts, starting from the subjects that they are good at, the sports that they are good at, and also the behavior that they should possess in the day-to-day life as they are coming to the schools. I hope this is clear. Now, these are some of the things that are needed to be touched upon, I think, from the school life. If we are able to change the curriculum, maybe over a longer period of run, the men or the redistribution can be ensured. The reduction can always be associated with redistribution, because if men are ready to share the burden, the reduction of the labor work, the unpaid labor work that the women will be doing at home can also be reduced. So I hope this is clear. The next one is the decoding Cuba's currency reforms. Now, what is this issue? Plus, please understand, Cuba had 2 currencies, and the currency of Cuba was basically, one is Cuban peso CUP and the another was convertible peso CUC. So they were using a dual currency system. There were 2 currencies present over there. One was, you can use any of the currencies, whatever currency you want to do. Why these currencies were introduced? Because the basic peso currency that Cuba was using has devalued over a very huge amount. So they have basically devalued all the currencies and introduced a new currency. Yeah, in simple terms, I think it will be, it is not as important topic to understand in the international affairs. In simple terms, just remember, Cuba had one currency in 1990. Now, this currency was made on parity with dollar because it was a fixed floating rate. It was not a flexible floating rate. So the demand and supply did not control the value of the currency. Okay? India has a modified currency rate. Okay? So India can, yeah, managed currency rate, you can say. India sometimes controls, sometimes it does not control. But then again, it is said that the currency of India is highly overvalued. The actual condition of rupee should be $1 is equal to 100 rupees, but we have stopped this $1 at 76 rupees because the Reserve Bank of India have basically soaked up all the liquidity from the market. This is the situation in India. Now, when this currency was introduced in Cuba, the $1 was equal to 1 peso. That is Cuban peso. Okay, CUP currency. Now, as there was a crisis with respect to the sugar prices that appreciated all over the world, and also the nickel prices that appreciated all over the world, and their close association with Soviet Union, the use of currency of USA was stopped because sanctions were put by USA. So sanctions were put by USA. Now the currency devalued. The currency now became $1 is equal to 150 Cuban peso. So what they did to bring in stability to the economy, they introduced another currency. For example, in the case of Iran, as their currency was devaluing at very fast rate, so they brought in another currency. Okay? Toman is the new currency of Iran. You should remember this. So these are some of the things that they did. Now from 1994, they have been operating on two currencies. Some people were using one currency, some people were using another currency. Now it is very difficult for you to assess here that how two type of notes can be used. But at that time in Cuba from 1994 to 2020, two currencies were used. One currency had different value with respect to dollar, and another currency had different value with respect to dollar. Now the proposal has been floated in 2011 for the removal of a currency, because it has been long argued that one country should have one currency. So now they have eliminated the another currency, that is the convertible currency, and they are going to take a hit to make economy competitive to the world, because I hope you understand that if the devaluation of rupee happens, then the exporters earn. Okay? Again, वहाँ पे मैंने आपको एग्जाम्पल दिया था इकोनॉमिक्स क्लास में. मैंने आपको कहा था कि मान लीजिए there is a pen that is manufactured for 100 rupees in India. Now, if you send this pen to USA and it is sold for $1, you will get 100 rupees. But let's say if the current currency devaluate. So from 100 rupees, that is $1 is equal to 100 rupees. $1 is now equal to 150 rupees. But the cost of the manufacturing of pen is still 100 rupees in India. So as you will send this 100 rupees pen to force 100 rupees pen for sale in USA, the $1 will fetch you 150 rupees. Okay, that is how the devaluation of the currency helps. Now the Cuba is basically introducing these reforms. They are introducing the devaluation of the currency, but please understand, as they will devalue, the inflation in the economy will also increase. So what they did to cater to the inflation, they increase the salary and the hikes in the wages of the people. And also they want to cut down the production cost, because it will also be increasing, because inflation will be increasing. So it is again a double-edged sword. This is just one step for a stable economy. There will be another steps that will be required to bringing the economy on the earlier path that is needed to be provided for the Cuban people. So I hope this is clear. The next one is the solo sailor quits Navy to closer to sea. So I hope you remember this person called as Abhilash Tomy. He was the person who have the first Indian to circumnavigate the world on his own, and he was racing in Golden Globe where his spinal cord have got broken. Then Indian Navy have rescued him from the sea. Now he have retired from the army. He have quit from army. Sorry, not army but Navy. And now he wished to go again to the Golden Globe, which is a real winter sailing equipment. You will have to sail without any modern equipments. So we will have to see. Just remember his name and no need to go into details. The next one is the panel clears Parliament project. So this panel is called as the Heritage Conservative Committee, and it is headed by Additional Secretary of the Housing and the Urban Affairs Ministry and includes government officials primarily. So whether the clearance could be done. So they have given a clearance for this particular parliament project. I hope this is clear. The next one is the author Ved Mehta. He passed away in United States of America, and Indian American author Ved Mehta. The contribution that he provided to the literary field was 12-volume memoir of the troubling history of British India. He was born in Lahore, so he have written 12 volumes, and apart from that he have also written another what we called novels like Walking in the Indian Street, Portrait of India, Mahatma Gandhi and His Apostles, and Exploration of Philosophy, Theology and Linguistics were his expertise, in which he have written books for. The next news is related to WHO expert to visit China to trace origin of COVID-19. So this is another step that is there. Already we have seen the enough about this particular issue, so you will read this news on your own. I will not go into detail. The next news is related to the stretch valuation threatens stability. First of all, what is a stretch valuation? Before understanding that, you need to understand what is the stock market and how the stock market function. So let's say I own a juice shop and I am earning 20,000 rupees from this particular juice shop within a month. Now, if I have 5 juice shops all over the city, I would be earning 1 lakh rupees. But right now I does not have that much of money so that I can establish 5 other juice shops or the 4 other juice shops. So what I will do, I will go to the stock market. I will tell them that this is my business idea. I am selling juice and this is my company. If you invest in my company, I will give you good returns. So you will go on the stock. You will ask them to buy shares of your company that you are issuing. They will give you the money. You will open 5 shops and you are earning 1 lakh profits, and you are also providing valuations or the profits for the people who have invested in the shares of your company. Now, Mr. Shaktikanta Das is basically telling that the valuations of the company are stretched by the companies themselves. Okay, so once you go, for example, I give you the example of 1 juice shop and the another 4 juice shops. It perfectly makes sense that you offer your shares in the market. Okay, so you are earning 20,000 from 5 shops. You will be earning 1 lakh rupees. Okay, the basic criteria. Now let's say you want to open a 6th shop. You are earning 1 lakh rupees a month. So can't you buy some of the share from the 1 lakh rupee that you are earning? Let's say you spend 50,000 on share. So that will increase the value of your company on the stock market. I hope this is clear. He says that the stretch valuation, the valuation of a particular share of a company, of the financial assets, are basically a threat to the financial stability of the state. I hope this is clear. So these are some of the financial stability report that he talked about. He talked about that the Standards and Poor BSE Sensex, if we talk about, it has appreciated approximately 90% from March 23, 2020. So what is happening? The companies are taking a loan and they are buying their own shares, which is actually increasing their value on the stock market, but they are not increasing anything in production, or the value with respect to the market capital has not been increasing. I hope this is clear. So I think that is it for today.